Hello and welcome back to another video. Today here I will react to Geography Now France. I hope you will all enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe for my YouTube channel and help me out to get 100 subscribers for the next big goal of my YouTube, whatever you want to call it. I will later also today maybe make a live stream. Maybe I will play a video game. I don't know yet which game, but I have some ideas. It depends on a few things. So, it's not a promise. It's just an idea I have. So, I will also record today a few more videos for the next week. I hope you all had a wonderful day so far. And yeah, I would say we just jump into the video. France, I was there already once. And it was nice. So I also learned a bit French. I could say something like au revoir or bonjour. I mean, I can read, I think, much better French and pronounce it when I read the text in French, but and I also understand kind of subtitles when I watch some videos. The same for Spanish. I learned Spanish at school and French in private. So yeah, I would say maybe at least A1 and maybe even A2. I'm not exactly sure, but for both languages, Spanish and French. So I can understand the basics, maybe something like this. So moment, there is something I want to show you. I am back, and I have here something here. I show it to you. It is a little thing where something in French is written. I will now write it, read it aloud. Here, take another look. So if someone from France is watching, I will also maybe put some subtitles of the French text in the video. Yeah, fait partie de l'histoire. Demain, une mystère. Aujourd'hui est un cadeau. C'est pourquoi on l'appelle présent. And I just like the sound of the language. French is a fantastic, interesting language, and I definitely want to learn more. Learn again more in French also because I just like languages in general, but also because French is just an interesting language. Spanish is not so interesting for me, I think, but I also would like to repeat a bit Spanish lessons so I am again better in Spanish. Maybe Spanish is not my favorite language, but it's an interesting language and definitely a language which I am interesting and interested in learning and being able to speak. The same goes for Russian. You may say whatever you want about Russia right now, but I love the language. And I definitely like it when Russians speak English. I mean, I watched one video and I know some other YouTube channels from Russia, but the one video and maybe I have a link in the description or somewhere else, but it was a video where a Russian guy pronounced all the United States states like Wyoming, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and so on, and it was just fantastic. I like this Russian accent of English. So so far to this, and yeah, Russian is an interesting language. So yeah, say whatever you want and sing whatever you want. It's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. So I would say we'll jump into the video. I hope you all subscribed by now. Please do. You would really help me. You see my hands. Just having 10 subscribers is anyway. But I'm happy about everyone, and if someone finds this video and think it's interesting, yeah, I would just love to if he or she would subscribe. So we will start now with the video.
Comme certains d'entre vous le savent, un huitième de moi est français. J'ai donc en quelque sorte une obligation d'honorer mon héritage.
Something with heritage, something like heritage at the end. I didn't understood everything, but yeah, French is in. It sounds awesome. Anyway, let's continue.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbie. France. Pretty much everybody on the planet has heard of this place. I mean, immediately images of wine, cafes, embellished 18th century Baroque architecture, and people who really hate
Yeah, I have to put up the quality of the video. I'm sorry.
globalization of the English language. But take a step back.
Yeah, I heard also this that French don't like to speak English. I mean, they are very proud on their own language, and they have good reasons to be proud on their language. So, yeah, I can't complain. I mean, I can't complain, but I can understand.
Back even further, and France becomes a place with jaguars, coconuts, volcanoes, penguins, grass skirts, war dances, bamboo flutes, witch.
And I know even where the penguins are located. On one of the outer islands of France, near Antarctica. I think it's I don't know the name of the island, but yeah, I think it's there.
Doctors and a multifaceted history that has evolved into a people group into becoming one of the most notable nations on the planet. Alors?
And by the way, the French flag has the same colors as the Russian flag, just in a different order and not vertical but horizontal. I mean, the French flag is, I think it's vertical. Maybe I'm saying now something stupid, but it's the same color, just not in the same order and not in the same direction or orientation.
Allons-y! The first thing you need to know about France is that it's not just European, but a transcontinental country that's...
Yeah, I knew here. Here France, Corsica, Saint-Pierre, and I don't know the exact name, but it's the small island near Canada. Some islands here, French Guiana, Mayotte, and Réunion. One of the French Antarctic islands, and I think one of those is also where the penguins were, and here's New Caledonia and French Polynesia. So yeah, really huge, very interesting. And France. Longest border with another nation is nowhere in Europe. It's just something also learned earlier. It's with Brazil in French Guiana. It's just fascinating.
Across 12 time zones, more than any other country in the world. Mais comment est-ce que possible? Laissez-moi expliquer, gros garçon. France is kind of divided into two main parts. The European metropolitan France, where about 95% of the population lives, and the overseas French regions, departments, and territories, otherwise known as the Département et Territoire d'Outre-mer, or...
Yeah, Département et Territoire d'Outre-mer.
Tom. Before we tell you what they are, let's explain the difference between them. Regions have exactly the same legal status as mainland France and the same civil, penal code, and administrative social tax laws.
Two islands in the Caribbean, I don't know their names, Réunion and Mayotte, near Madagascar, and French Guiana.
However, they can be slightly adapted to suit the region's particular needs. In collectivities, the autonomy rises and they are empowered to make their own laws except in certain areas like defense, currency, trade, and diplomacy. The overseas regions are Guadeloupe and Martinique in the Caribbean, French Guyana in South
America. I didn't know the name of those two islands, but French Guiana, of course.
America, which by the way has the Kourou Space Center, disputably the best in the world because it adds an extra gravitational slingshot effect because it's so close to the equator of the Earth, and Réunion and Mayotte off the coast of East Africa. The overseas collectivities are French Polynesia, you've probably heard of Tahiti, that's French Polynesia, as well as Wallis and Futuna in the Pacific, Saint Pierre and Miquelon right off the coast of Canada, Saint Barthélemy and Saint Martin, which is the only place in France that has a border.
Yeah, that's also. I'm sorry I paused too much, but there's also something I heard or learned through other videos. Yeah, interesting.
with the Netherlands, as the Dutch own the southern part of the island, located all in the Caribbean. The only islands that lie under the title of overseas territories are the French Southern and Antarctic Islands, or the TAAF. These islands are made up of the Kerguelen Islands, the St. Paul and Amsterdam Islands, you can probably guess who used to own those, the Crozet Islands, and Adeliland, the claimed slice of Antarctica that is technically not recognized thanks to the Antarctic Treaty. And as of 2007, the scattered islands in the Indian Ocean, remember the Comoros episode, were added to make the 5th district of the territory, even though half of them are disputed with Comoros, Seychelles, and Mauritius. These islands are mostly uninhabited and only house temporary military or scientific personnel. Finally, France administers 2 special territories that don't quite fall into any of the previously mentioned categories. There's the uninhabited Clipperton Island off the coast of Mexico, which has a crazy murder story behind it. And last but not least, there's New Caledonia, which has a special particular status out of the French-administered overseas territories. New Caledonia is the only one that's vying for a kind of somewhat independence, as the political power was passed to the native Kanak peoples. There is a weird dual French, EU, and New Caledonian citizenship thing going on, and in 2018 they will hold a referendum to either remain or leave France. And thanks to all these territories, they together give France the 2nd largest executive economic zone in the world after the US. Whew.
That's also interesting because in another video, another YouTuber said that France has the largest sea territory, exclusive economic zone, higher, more than the United States. So here they say United States is the first. In another video from Real Life Law, he said that France is first. I don't know which is right or which is wrong. I just see that there's a difference.
Okay, now let's go back to Metropolitan Europe, France. The country is located in Western Europe, bordered by 8 other nation-states. Don't forget little Andorra and Monaco, along the coast by the English Channel and the Bay of Biscay in the north and west, as well as the Mediterranean Sea to the south. Mainland France is sometimes referred to as the hexagon, since if you tilt your head a little bit, it kind of looks like it's south. Mainland France.
Moment. Okay, here's the Bay of Biscay and the English Channel. Here's the Mediterranean. But here, it should also be the North Sea. Another ocean, I mean another sea. I'm not sure how it is called in English. In German it's called the North Sea. So I thought it would be the North Sea. Maybe it's also wrong. I think that's the Baltic Sea, that's the North Sea, but maybe I'm wrong. Tell me in the comments if yeah, you know it.
And the Bay of Biscay in the north and west, as well as the Mediterranean Sea to the south. Mainland France is sometimes referred to as the hexagon, since if you tilt your head a little bit, it kind of looks like it has 6 sides. Quite frankly, I was always under the impression that it kind of looked like a teapot with feet. Mainland France is also divided into 13 regions, including Corsica Island, 18 altogether if you include the overseas regions, with the capital, largest city, as well as the main cultural and commercial center, Paris. We could talk on and on about Paris, what with the unbelievable
Paris. As I heard, there was once, and I think it's not any longer the case, but there was once a train line between Moscow and Paris. A train traveling this distance. I think it's not anymore the case, but just to travel to Paris would be interesting. I think it's one of the 3 largest cities in Europe. I think it's Moscow, maybe then Paris and then London. I'm not exactly sure about the order, but I think Moscow is at the top from the size of city. But yeah, interesting. I would love to go there. To the city of love, Paris and Venice. I mean, I think it was the city of Paris. The city of love was about Paris, was referring to Paris, but I would like to visit Paris and Venice. But yeah. Yeah, let's see.
Designed metropolitan layout, the rich, vibrant atmosphere, the juxtaposition of classically adorned historical sites along neo-contemporary architecture, the food, the shops, and of course, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. But that in itself would take too long, and we gotta get through 3 more segments. The busiest airports are the 2 Paris twins, Charles de Gaulle and Orly International, as well as Nice, Côte d'Azur, and the 2nd and 3rd largest cities, Lyon, Saint-Exupéry, and Marseille, Provence International. At around 643,000 square kilometers, France is the largest country in the EU. The interesting thing about France is that it's kind of divided into areas that historically had their own distinct cultural.
Here you see also the how big in comparison the outside territories are here. For example, French Guiana. I think it is a 5th of metropolitan of the mainland France in Europe. And yeah, you see here the smaller islands, and so I mean the only things which stand out a bit are these two islands and this big. I think it's Reunion, but I'm not sure. Interesting.
Identity. Some of the most notable ones being Occitania, Savoy, Brittany, Normandy, Alsace, a section of the Basque Country, Nice, and the island of Corsica, which speaks its own dialect most.
The flag of Corsica is also amazing. It's a rare flag. I mean, it's. It stands out for me like the flag of the Isle of Man with 3 legs.
French people can't even understand. These regions contribute their own unique piece of the French pie. Speaking of pie, we all know about French food, which is great because we're going to discuss more about it in... If you look at France's physical makeup, you start to kind of understand why food plays such a huge role in their culture. Everything just kind of works out perfectly for them. For metropolitan France, big, rich, nourishing rivers and their tributaries like the Garonne, Dordogne, Loire, Seine, Meuse, and Rhône entangle the entire country north to south, east to west, allowing an abundance of irrigated crop fields to exist in nearly every corner of the country. Now add on top of that the fact that the country does not have any major fault lines. They enjoy a nice oceanic European climate, and they don't suffer regularly from any major natural catastrophes. Most of the country is made up of arable flat plains or small rolling green hills that are just begging for cultivation, and voila, you have an agricultural gold mine. In fact, out of every country in the EU, France reportedly has the highest quality of soil performance and resilience, and only a few spots like in the Caucasus region and parts of Eastern Europe and Southern Russia rank higher. So there you go. Food haven. In the south, you reach the mountainous regions of France, including the Pyrenees along the border with Spain, the Massif Central Plateaus, one of the most geologically studied places in Europe due to this strange formation, the Alps all along the borders with Italy and Switzerland. By the way, Switzerland was all like, yeah, I'm not gonna share Lake Léman, it's mine! And that's how Geneva was born. The highest point in France, let alone all of the EU, is Mont Blanc, found in the French Alps along the border with Italy, only second in height to the Caucasus Mountains in all of Europe. If you consider the Caucasus region a part of Europe, some people don't, but that's another story. France is a cornucopia of produce, dairy, and meat. Every region has their own specialty, but 2 things are everywhere: cheese and wine. The French are the largest consumers of cheese with over 1,200 different varieties found all over the country.
But the French are with cheese, the Germans seem to be with bread. When you remember the German episode of the Geography Now, he said that there are over 3,000 different types of bread. So we love bread and beer, so it seems, and the French love cheese and meat, where specifically cheese, so it looks from this image. Yeah, interesting.
The French also have a larger range of unconventionally consumed meat products. Most countries stick with beef, chicken, pork, maybe lamb or goat, and fish. However, the French aren't satisfied with just that. Other animals like pheasant, duck, goose, quail, rabbit, venison, veal, horse, frogs, and snails are consumed regularly. Speaking of which, the national animal...
I don't know about some of these animals. I mean, yeah, whatever is tasteful also, but... Or you are vegan or vegetarian and you say not at all, but some of them seem weird for me, but yeah, maybe also chicken and beef and something like this is also weird for people, so yeah, who cares? Different people, different tastes, so whatever.
Is the Gallic rooster, which is why you might typically see a lot of roosters on French-affiliated symbols. In fact, France is one of the most entomophagous, that's insect-eating, countries in Europe, as about 700 million snails are estimated to be consumed every year by the French, especially in Burgundy, the largest snail-producing region in France. Unfortunately, due to the fact that the French are the highest consumers of raw or mildly cooked red meats, a huge portion of the population is either exposed or chronically infected by the Toxoplasma gondii parasite that disputably over half of the population is suspected to have. This little guy eventually finds its way into your brain, changes people's behaviors into being either more caring or aggressive and suspicious. Look it up, I'm not even joking. The Alps are famous for their charcuterie and fondue, Brittany for its crepes, Cantal for its chestnuts, Dijon for its mustard, l'Aveyron for aligot, Rheims for its champagne, and then we get to Bordeaux. Now, first of all, every region of France...
Bordeaux. I know the Bordeaux wine. I mean, I don't drink alcohol, but I heard about it. Very famous.
likes to claim that they have the best wine. However, it's widely known that Bordeaux is disputably the home of the largest wine vineyards in the world, pumping out over 500 million liters of wine a year. The French take their produce maintenance very seriously and became the first country in the world to ban supermarkets from throwing away or destroying unsold food since February of 2016.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. You know, yeah, there are people here in Germany which steal food from the garbage can whatever from the supermarkets, and it is it is a criminal offense theoretically. So people get arrested sometimes, or get at least sued for stealing the food which was thrown away by the supermarket. And I think it's very wrong and not right to do this. I mean, I don't want to get anyone into trouble, but it should definitely not be a criminal act. And the supermarkets, I mean, it's great what France did, and we should do something similar. And maybe even, I mean, who needs why should it be normal that kind of fruits and stuff which is which does not grow here in winter is still available and sometimes even cheaper than the local stuff? We import cheap fruits, whatever fruits, or vegetables from far away off the other side of the planet, like South America or Africa or Australia, Asia, maybe even or other places, and these then are cheaper or available. They get flight here expensively, and yeah, this is something where we should and where we really should limit ourselves, maybe even through laws. I mean, I think it have to be through laws, because otherwise people won't do it. But so we can limit the carbon dioxide, is the stuff which destroys the atmosphere, CO2, carbon dioxide, the airplanes and so would put into the atmosphere. So we have to do something for climate change, and that's something that's an easy way to do it. And we just have to accept that in winter we don't have kind of summer fruits or vegetables, at least not so much. And we should make the home products, local stuff, cheaper. Anyway, let's continue.
All businesses must donate wastage to either charities or food banks. To combat crop wastage on farms, France has even opened up ugly fruit or vegetable shops in which you can buy disfigured produce for 30% off. Other than foodstuffs though, main exports...
This is also an amazing idea. Why every carrot or every apple, every whatever fruit have to be in the perfect shape? Why? I mean, it tastes the same. So, and when you cook it and put it into the... When you use it for some ingredient as an ingredient, it is anyway, it doesn't matter, it is cooked, anyway.
Are aircraft, chemicals, machinery, iron, and steel, electronics, motor vehicles, and pharmaceuticals. Of course, the overseas territories and regions also have climates and topographies that are completely different. The Caribbean islands and Guyana enjoy a warm Caribbean tropical climate, Guyana being part of the Amazon, having one of the highest forest cover densities in the world at over 95%, with over 1,100 species of birds and reptiles and mammals found in it. Reunion and Mayotte off the coast of Africa have deep jungle ravines and a common volcanic activity going on. The scattered islands are mostly uninhabited sandbanks and lagoons with nothing more than just a few trees and shrubs. The southern Antarctic islands are rocky and desolate with few grasses and vegetation. Kerguelen has these cabbage-looking things going on, and these islands typically freeze over in the winter with penguins stampeding off the coasts. New Caledonia and French Polynesia are tropical Pacific islands that enjoy an abundance of rich, unspoiled, thick jungle, brush, and colorful flowers. And of course, Adelie Land is like all ice and Antarctica. Alright, we've discussed borders, boundaries, mountains, food, volcanoes. Now let's talk about who's running the entire show.
The French people.
France is a country of people that are very, very intent on making sure that you know they are French. First of all, the country has about 67 million people and is the second largest in Europe after Germany, making 13% of the EU alone. About 85% of the population is white, 10% are North African, mostly from the Maghreb regions, a little over 3% are black, and a little less than 2% are Asian. The currency is the euro, they use the type CEF outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road, which makes things interesting when their neighbors from the UK come across the channel.
That's something I was really amazed how it really works, the tunnels between France and Great Britain. I know it is there, and I know it's there for a while now, but from driving on the left side, from the British side, to driving on the right side, on the French side. I mean, they have probably a good system, but that's something I would either like to see maybe in a video or experience it myself, but a video is more likely. So if you know a video where someone drives through the channel, please let me know in the comments. It would really be interesting for me. Yeah, let's go.
Now let's talk about the white people. Most white French people have some or partial Celtic or Gaulish origins, as historically the Gauls inhabited most of the centralized regions of modern-day France. That means genetically, the French and British have a lot more in common than they think. Of course, an admixture of Latin and Germanic roots.
Yeah, the history between those two countries is also interesting. Always, or very often in wars, and the French supported the Scottish people in their wars against Britain, England. I mean, the French supported the the Americans with the independence. So very interesting history.
Also applies, as all three people groups had their stake of claim in France as well. The name France even came from the Germanic Frank tribe. French is of course the official language, however regional dialects do exist, but for the most part they do pretty well at
Français.
making sure everyone speaks it. Granted, the linguistic zones that we mentioned before each have their own flag, still cling on to their mother tongue, and sometimes you can even find street signs written in these languages. For example, Breton, a Celtic-based language related to Welsh and Irish found in Brittany, Basque in the Basque Country, Occitan in Occitania. Corsicans have like this strange half French, half Italian hybrid thing going on. Keep in mind though, most of the languages spoken in the linguistic zones are kind of dying out, and only the older generation really retains daily conversation in those languages. Outside of metropolitan France, the overseas departments and territories each speak French, but in addition typically have their own creoles or dialects. For example, in the Caribbean, Martinique and Guadeloupe might say "Ça a marché, tout bon man, ti mal man." In Reunion or Mayotte, they might say "Quoi fait, comment il est, à où." France is the most visited country in the world, as more people than the entire population of France visit France annually at about 80 million. Culture-wise, there is too much to discuss. I mean, we are talking.
So probably in average, in a normal year, there are the 66 million native French plus 80 million tourists, so around 146 million people in France every year, in average. Interesting.
Millennia of tribes, wars, empires, heroes, villains, artists, poets, architects, kings, queens, guillotines, revolutions, inventions, music, dance, clothing, fashion, cinema, cuisine, discoveries, victories, losses, folklore, science, literature, medicine, and baguettes. To cover it all, we would need a whole separate YouTube channel. But for what it's worth, since the Middle Ages, France has been able to show time after time again that it has been a global force to be reckoned with. I mean, the French at one point in time had the
It's also very interesting, the old colonial empire of France. I mean, they were everywhere. At least everywhere they had some kind of outpost or so, I don't know. Except South America and Northern Asia. Anyway.
second largest empire in the world, spanning across virtually every region on every continent. One thing you have to understand is that in a fast-growing Anglophone-driven global economy, France is very, very firmly intent on preserving the French language and culture. The governmentally sanctioned Académie Française has aimed at doing this since 1634. They do things like, somewhat unsuccessfully, banning foreign words such as blog, hashtag, parking, email, and weekend. In addition, the French media's top regulators, the CSA and CNC, have strictly enforced policies that require all music on private radio to be at least of 40% French origin and 70% in the French language between the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and half the music quota must be less than 6 months old. Everything must be French. France is
I mean, I understand it. It's a nice language, but maybe you should open up this a bit. I mean, yeah, it's a good language, so yeah.
Of course, home to a plethora of notable figures in every field of academia and athleticism. I mean, they have almost 70 Nobel Peace Prize winners, including famous chemists Pierre and Marie Curie. Few people know that they had a daughter who also became a notable scientist. Other scientists, writers, and philosophers like Descartes, Pascal, Baudelaire, Flaubert, Pasteur, Châtelet, Bouton, who by the way invented the metric system. Musicians like Rameau, Lully.
The metric system. That's nice.
Debussy, Jacques Brel, Edith Piaf. Of course, we can't forget the fashion icons Louis Vuitton, Coco Chanel, and
I
Christian.
mean, compared to what the American use with their I don't know the name, but the metric system with tens, 100,000 a kilogram is much more intuitive than theirs with a foot and inches, and I don't know, maybe some of it is also British, but yeah.
I mean, it's no secret, France is often touted as the fashion capital of the world. Artists like Monet, Cézanne, Renoir, Degas, Manet, and Gauguin. And of course, what's an episode about France without mentioning anything about Kings Louis XIV and XVI, Joan of Arc, and Napoleon? In a simple way of putting it, French culture is very vibrant and proud. The French love where they've come from and how they go about doing things. The Catholic Church once played a major role, and to this day, even as a secular state with dwindling church attendees, many French people still, in the very least, identify nominally as Catholic. Mostly for a cultural thing. It's just their history and they don't want to toss it away. They also love taking breaks and getting their sleep. On average, the French get about 8.83 hours of sleep every day, more than any other country in the developed world. And they also have some of the shortest work weeks with only about 6 to 7 hours on average a day. And that's enough for them. It's not uncommon to see people taking time off in the middle of the day, early evening, just to relax and take a nap. They even have a word for it, l'heure de l'apéro, which literally translates to the hour of the aperitif. People can also claim
It's interesting. I like this.
State pension at age 62, making it one of the lowest retirement ages in the world. And of course, the sport French people rank highest in the world, going on strike. I mean, the last thing you want to do is interrupt a Frenchman's nap during a 6-hour shift with corporate policy changes. Yep, the world can be a cruel, cruel place. Let's see how France survives in the jungle. When it comes to France, they don't discriminate. They hate everyone equally. No, but seriously, France has their eyes on a few people, and when they see what they like, they cling on and make you a treasure. First of all, Francophone nations and Latin-based former Roman legacy nations generally get the high seats, especially their neighbors like Switzerland, Luxembourg, Italy.
Just my girlfriend messaged me, so I had to write with her. We continue with the video. I hope when you like this video so far, when you enjoyed it, you should have subscribed by now. I hope you did this when you liked the video. You don't need to, of course, but when you kind of enjoy the other videos, maybe when you watch other videos before. Anyway, I don't want to mention this too often, so let's just continue with the video.
Spain. Quebec, Canada is to France kind of like what the USA is to the UK. They adore each other, they love each other's accents, but they love making fun of each other even more, even though they are really close. Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia are the closest African nations as they make up the largest African immigrant demographics, followed by sub-Saharan African countries like Cameroon and Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast. For France, Japan is seen as like...
I heard that the people from Côte d'Ivoire want to refer to themselves as not as Ivory Coast as this country, but Côte d'Ivoire. I think it's pronounced like this.
The epitome of exoticism. Similar to themselves, the Japanese have a rich culture of noble tradition, things like castles, attire, and food. Likewise, Japan sort of shares the same mutual fascination and see France as like its European alternate universe twin. There's no two countries to poke fun of.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, also, yeah, the Japanese are also very proud of themselves and have this rich culture he mentioned. Yeah, maybe it is a good equivalent to Japan, France. Interesting. I haven't thought about this.
And borderline harass each other with the French as the UK and the USA. As historical rivals with the UK, I mean, they did have a 100-year war with them, and the USA busting their chops about World War II all the time. All sides like to satirize each other in cartoons and media all the time. Nonetheless, they are actually really close. The UK and France have been crossing borders and intermarrying for centuries. Commerce and student exchanges are high, and the US was helped by the French during the Revolutionary War, and they even gave the Statue of Liberty as a present. So fellow Americans, thank France for Lady Liberty, okay? He was a kind gesture. France's best friends, though, would probably be Germany and Belgium. It's kind of funny because historically, the only country that was consistently an opponent of France was Germany. Ever since the split of Charlemagne's empire in three, most of Europe's history was driven by the overarching rivalry between variations of France and all variations of Germany, including the Holy Roman Empire, the Teutonic Order, Prussia, and of course, the Third Reich. But the plot twist was the creation of the EU. Following Robert Schumann's speech that stated
the thing which exists before the European Union existed was kind of a cooperation between France, Germany, and Great Britain. So, I mean, with the Brexit, one of the earliest members of the European Union left it again, and I'm very sad about this. So, yeah, if the Great Britain, one day decided to come back, I would welcome them with open arms, but also tell them that they should then also change their currency and really become real Europeans and not just I mean, I wish I look forward for a European state, like kind of all the countries which existed before disappear, and new kind of provinces, regions, whatever you want to call them, are created, and maybe even over borders of the old countries. So ethnicities which want to be being together, like this region between France and Spain or other places, just can have their thing, and borders don't separate them. And it was a new with this new theoretical European sovereign state, like the United States of Europe or the Federation of Europe, or however you want to call them. I would really like this if it is done in the right way, with a powerful European Parliament, with European elections where the Parliament really has a power. So European Parliament has not much power, but in this, how I imagine this, it would be amazing. So, but let's continue.
It's explicitly that for Europe to even hope to work, the millennia-old rivalry between France and Germany has to be resolved for good. Ever since 1950, France and Germany have taken a lot of political inspiration off of each other. Heads of states have visited each other on numerous occasions, and both countries have been the biggest advocates for the survival of the Union. And Belgium is like their little brother that moved out and got a Dutch-speaking roommate and visits France every so often to raid their fridge and do their laundry. In conclusion, les Français sont connus pour être intrépides, turbulents, mais qui gardent quand même un certain charme. Ils ont parfois l'air désinvolts, mais bon, essayez de vivre dans un pays envahi 24 heures sur 24, 7 jours sur 7, par des hordes de touristes qui piétinent vos jardins, massacrent votre gastronomie et vous demandez de vous plaire au moindre de leurs désirs sans même vous dire un petit merci. Oh, France, faut le comprendre. Stay tuned. France's rich former little colony, Gabon, is coming up next.
Yeah, a really good video. Amazing good video. His French is much better than mine. My French. I like to hear his French. And so great. Subscribe for his channel. Of course, if you don't want to subscribe for me, subscribe for him. That's more important. He make great videos, and I enjoy them. The most of them. Subscribe to me anyway. But yeah. Tell me if you have a country you want me to react to in the comments. I will, after this video, react to 2 other videos maybe. I'm not sure yet. So you can also activate the bell if you want, so you don't miss out any videos. But yeah, I will maybe make some more videos today. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.